Well, I am late to this party, but you know what they say, it's better late than never. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Oliver Meech's Effervescent. So who is this author? What's this about? And why is this a party to attend? Let's address all of your questions here in this episode of Erudite Magic. I saw this book a few months ago back in 2024 when it was published, but I never actually got around to picking up a copy. Fortunately, I corresponded with Oliver and he was kind enough to send me a copy for review. The book itself is about 175 pages of magic. There are 19 different tricks and 11 ideas that he shares with you, which we'll talk more about in just a second. The book is hardbound, self-published through Lulu, and he has distribution through magic dealers. The vast majority of the tricks are card magic, but I think that a lot of his ideas are super creative and different than the normal types of card magic you might be expecting from someone that you don't know their name. Speaking of not knowing their name, I was not that familiar with Oliver Meech, so I did a little bit of research and saw that he isn't a stranger to the magic book world. In fact, I saw that he's published several magic books before this one. In addition to the books he's already published, Ollie has contributed magic that has been put into print by the Jerks, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of the type of magician who might be interested in this material. And in doing my research, I discovered that he is a speaker and writer already. As an off-the-cuff remark, I'll say that that kind of shines through in what I was reading. It's easy to read, very engaging, and I want to tell you a little bit about what you might expect from this book in terms of the magic that he teaches. He seems to be a performer. I see that he's performed several times at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. He's performed at the Olympics and several other things. So he does perform this material and he talks about using some of it while he was doing walk around or on tour or other places. The short version of this review is that I really liked what I read here. I thought that it was creative, interesting, easy to digest, and I could see myself performing a number of these tricks. Of course, the longer version is probably what you're here for. So let's dive into some of the things I liked and that I want to highlight in this book. In the table of contents, he has things broken down. There's a section for just a deck, unconventional cards, problem solving, and stage and parlor. At the end, in addition to the tricks, there's a whole ideas section, which we're going to come to in a little bit. And at the very end, he shares 2 essays about how he categorizes tricks that he's read or learned, and then how he uses that information to help him make better decisions about his magic. The second essay dives into 9 creative tools to help you break out of the rut that you might be in. And I found a lot of these to be interesting because I think they do help you become more creative. Okay, but let's talk about the magic for a second. I mentioned that most of this is card material, but what I really liked was a couple of things. One is that they were different. There are a lot of tricks in here where you're mutilating cards in some way. There are tricks with half cards, or a trick with some torn corners, holes punched in it. There's even a trick with kind of a repair kit for when something happens to the pips. He has a prediction using a long jumper made out of a card that ends up jumping onto the deck, and wherever it lands, it ends up predicting the card that the person selected. I don't want to give away too much, but it's creative ideas like this. He has an idea for one of the great card tricks of all time, Simon Aronson's shuffleboard. If you don't know that trick, it's fantastic, practically self-working, and gives you the ability to predict the outcome of a bunch of random shuffles. And what Oliver, or Ollie as he says everyone calls him, does is take this to the next level and makes it more personal by not just making some predictions about cards, but ultimately predicting the birth months of 2 participants who are taking part in the trick. The other thing that I really like is the fact that he gives his inspiration for all of these tricks. Too often you read a trick in a magic book and it's all done for the sake of some sort of method or because the person was working on this particular thing. But in Ollie's case, I like that he is sharing what he's reading, what he's watching. Shawshank Redemption was an inspiration for one of the tricks. Noted economist Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and the premise of that book was the inspiration for another one of Ollie's tricks. Again, one that I could see myself performing, particularly because I like books and thoughts like that. If you're the kind of performer who gets inspired by seeing other things in the world around you and figuring out ways that you can put some sort of magic effect around it, then you're definitely going to like a book like this. And even if you're the magician who wants to learn new tricks, I still think that this is a fascinating and fun read. Part of what makes it fun is the layout and the way he describes the tricks. At the beginning, you're going to get some sort of intro blurb. He's a copywriter after all, about why this trick exists or what it is. Something interesting to hook your attention and focus in. If it's relevant, he'll give you his inspiration, why he came up with this, or what prompted him to do it. It gives you the plot, which is effectively a 1 or 2 sentence summary explaining what it is that the performer's doing from the point of view of the audience. He'll provide you with the requirements. Do you need a deck of cards? Do you need scissors or tape? And many of these tricks, you will have to do some of your own arts and crafts, but nothing too bad. Once you have all the props set aside, you'll move into the preparation. So whatever you have to do to get this trick ready, if anything, will be explained. As it is with a lot of magic books, he then proceeds right into the method, but I also like that he gives you the gist at the beginning of the method so that you get a quick summary of what this method is. After walking you through the details of the method, complete with photographs where necessary to help explain things, he then takes you to thoughts and variations. This was another really great section that I liked, where he shares alternate ideas or different ways to present the trick, different ways to perform the trick, things that he considered at one point but didn't fit his style or performance environment. But it's neat to have these additional ideas. The bottom line is I think that there's a lot of value in this section. So if you end up purchasing this book, don't just skip over the variation section at the end. I think there's a lot of really great thinking there. Lastly, in each trick, he has a credits section. And if you know me, you know this is super important to me. I love it when someone does great crediting, and Ollie does. For each portion of the method that he's using, he's giving you the genesis of that move or that trick, or so that you can either do more reading or just understand that he actually has done his homework and isn't just sharing things that aren't his. I will add that there are a few tricks that he doesn't completely explain the entire method. For example, the trick with Simon Aronson's shuffleboard. Since he did not invent shuffleboard, he's not teaching you the procedure of shuffleboard. It's a presentation around it with some method that you need to make his ending work. But if you have any kind of library at all, you're not going to struggle to find the methods that are missing from this book. If you're looking to build out your library so that you have resources and references to things like this, then you're going to want to shop with the sponsor of this week's video, Don's Magic and Books. Don offers all kinds of magic books, everything from old, out-of-print books to the newest, like Oliver Meech's Effervescent. All of them are offered at excellent deals, and you'll quickly qualify for free shipping if you live in the United States. I check Don's site fairly frequently because sometimes he'll get in that one book you've been looking for a while, and because of how great his pricing is, it inevitably won't last long. So be sure to shop often with him if you are in the market for delightful magic books. Now that you understand a little bit about the layout of the book, the types of tricks that are involved, and what I liked about the way he writes this up, let's talk about who this is for and the value proposition. I think that most of this material, it's safe to say, is generally for close-up, although there are a number of pieces that would play for bigger audiences. But if you are the kind of person who likes to perform card tricks for your friends, or your coworkers, or obviously even for paid gigs in a walk-around setting or close-up environment, then I think that a lot of this is going to play really well for you. There are some arts and crafts involved with these tricks, but really nothing strenuous. For example, he has a trick that uses one of those little flick spinner things from a board game. You'll need to alter a playing card to install that into a playing card and then write on the playing card for one trick. In others, as I mentioned, you'll have to tear off corners or punch holes in the cards. Occasionally, you'll have to cut and glue some cards. But the methods are devious and the plots are engaging, so I think you'll find that it's worth it. I'll point out that the difficulty level on this is fairly minimal. I don't think that this book is designed for beginners, so I'm going to suggest that you should be an intermediate card magician, but that doesn't mean that you need to have a lot of chops. I think many magicians I know who are not into knuckle-busting sleight of hand will enjoy this book. The price at full retail is $55, although because he has published it via Lulu, sometimes you'll be able to find a coupon or get the book for less than that. In terms of the value score that I typically apply to books, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I felt like a lot of these ideas were really great, obviously from his working repertoire or have been used by him in a variety of situations. In addition to the tricks that you're getting, you also get these ideas from him. The way I think about it, the only real difference between these ideas and the actual tricks is they are less fleshed out versions of tricks. For example, the first entry into this ideas section is about experimenting with your pick a card routines and finding new and novel ways to reveal it. He gives you an interesting idea of how he did that with an audience at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and some of the ideas that he came up with that you're free to use. He shares an idea for shuffling cards when you either don't want to have someone come up and shuffle cards, or maybe you're doing a video performance where they're not able to shuffle the cards. You can still show your audience that the cards are completely shuffled and even have some control over that shuffle procedure. He shares thoughts about how to take a trick like Mirror Skill and take it to the next level so that it's not quite as procedure driven as the original. So all in all, you are getting pretty good value at that $55 level. Clearly, there are going to be books that are thicker, have more tricks in them, or potentially are older. But if you're looking for things that are off the beaten path and maybe different than what you've seen before, I think this does add a little bit of value in that context. In terms of the practicality, I'm also going to give this a pretty high score. I'm going to say that this is an 8 out of 10. And the only reason that I knock anything off of it whatsoever is because it's going to be up to you whether or not you want to perform all of them. Some of them will require you to do some of those arts and crafts, which is eminently practical. I don't see any problems, and I think I pretty much have most of what I would need to perform everything in there, but some of it will need you to go to the store to pick up a few items that you might not have lying around. Don't worry, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with any of the methods or the work that you would have to put into it. In terms of the artistic merit, the inside of it is black and white. You get that splash of pretty blue water type color and the effervescent, which basically means bubbling, theme throughout the book. So you have that Alka-Seltzer type look decorating the book. I liked the way he laid things out. It made sense. The top sections were in a slightly larger font, and then the headers made things clear and broke them down. There are black and white pictures, and there were enough of those to be helpful without becoming overwhelming. All that said, I'm going to give the artistic merit a 7 out of 10. Overall, I'm going to give this an 8.5 out of 10. I really liked this. It was a fun read, and I found the premises to be engaging and entertaining. Totally different than what I normally see from a pick a card type routine, and that definitely had an appeal and engaged me. It's not a huge book, but it's one that I'm glad to have on my shelf. Definitely check out his work. I know that I will anxiously look forward to his next book now that I'm familiar with Oliver Meech. As always, my friend, thank you for watching, and until next time, keep reading.